Hey guys, it's your boy Miguel back again with another video, and this time again with the Vivo V30. Now this is the regular V30. The previous Vivo that I reviewed was the Vivo V30 Lite 5G, and because of the Lite name you obviously can expect a little bit of a downgrade. So this is supposed to be a better phone, and this does fall in the upper mid-range phone. I was actually quite impressed by some of the specs that I saw over here. Ever since they're starting to make a comeback in the UAE market, it looks like they're actually improving their phones. So we have the Vivo V30 over here. We have 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of internal storage. You can go ahead and buy this with 8 gigs as well if you want to, and then you also have the option of 256 gigs as well. Looking at some of the specs over here, we have 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of internal storage. The color that we have is the green color. Now this is a very simplification of the color because this is a very special color, and I believe it's going to be called the Peacock Green color, which is going to be inspired by a actual peacock. And I believe what Vivo says is that they're coloring, or they're naming this this color after I don't know if it's the national animal of India or the national bird of India, but the colors are going to be inspired by the feathers of a peacock. I should also mention that at the time of filming, the Vivo V30 is not available to the public right now. It's going to be launching on March 7th, which is actually tomorrow. By the time this video will be up, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be launched and it will be available. We also have the Vivo V30 Pro coming, which is a camera-centered phone. The main difference is obviously the specs and then some bumps in the cameras, and when I get that I'll also go ahead and make that. But let's go ahead and see what we have here. So we have the phone up front, and then I don't know if you guys can tell the color, but we have some of the paperwork. We have the silicone case, some paperwork. We don't have a booklet. I believe this is because it's just a review unit, so we don't have that fancy booklet stuff that you usually get. I don't see the SIM pin either. You do get an 80-watt charger. This is actually the same charger that you get with the Vivo V30 Lite 5G, and then you have the USB-A to USB-C cable. Oh, actually the SIM pin is over here, my bad. Now looking at the color, as it's mentioned, it's a green color, but that's a very oversimplified way of describing the color, and I can kind of see that this is actually inspired and colored after the feathers of a peacock, because you do see that changing hue from different lighting, and it's more of a blue than green, but they've actually done a pretty good job at mimicking the same color. You have your camera setup over here. You also have this Aura ring, which I'll go into a little bit when I talk about the camera system. We have glass on the back. The frame is actually made up of plastic, and then we also have some sort of protection. It's not Gorilla Glass, but there is some sort of protection on the glass here on the front. We have the speaker system down here. We have the USB-C port, and you also have the dual SIM tray. On this side, we pretty much don't have anything. On the top over here, the only thing that's mentioned is professional portrait. So this is a very good portrait phone. I have taken some portrait photography with this, and it is shockingly good. I mean, I was actually impressed by the level of detail that you could tell in the portrait, which is not something that can be said with a lot of other phones. And on this side, we have the power button, and we also have the volume rockers. Now, this phone overall is very slim, and the Vivo is advertising this as one of the slimmest phones of 2024. I don't know if that's just within their lineup. It doesn't say that it's the slimmest phone out of a lot of other Android phones. It just says slimmest phone of 2024. So I'm assuming that in their current lineup, this is probably one of the slimmest, and it is very slim, and it's actually kind of slipping away from your hands because both at the back and the front are curved, and because of that, it feels like the phone is very slippery, although it feels really nice. It's like there's no strain on the hands, and this kind of reminds me a lot of the OnePlus 12. It's giving me OnePlus vibes for some reason, and overall the phone is pretty good. I mean, I really like the whole aesthetic of it. It's just an overall pleasing phone to look at, and it's something that I would consider buying just because of the looks. Talking about the display, we have an AMOLED display with 120 Hz refresh rate. Unfortunately, it's not LTPO, but it is dynamic, which means that you can set it up automatically to change depending on what you are browsing, or you can also set it up at 60 or 120 at all times if you want to. I did see some other settings as well, so you can go ahead and also change the resolution of the display over here. So you can put it in high definition or super definition, as Vivo likes to call it. So if you put it in high definition, it's going to go back to 1080p, and if you switch it to super definition, it's obviously going to have a more clear display, but it's going to use a little bit more power, and then the resolution is going to be 1260 as well. But I like that you have the option. Not a lot of phones give you that option. I think Samsung does something similar where you can actually change the display from Full HD to WQHD or something like that. The overall display is a 6.7-inch display. When we talk about the pixel density, this has about 453 ppi pixel density. It has around 1200 nits of peak brightness, and it goes up to a maximum of about 2800 nits of peak brightness, which is pretty decent. Very good actually, because the Galaxy S24 right now has 2600 nits of peak brightness. The iPhone 15, I believe, now has also 2000 or 2500, so this is right up there with the flagships as well when it comes to the brightness. And then overall, the screen is just a very vivid, very good looking display. I was very impressed by the display, and considering the price, this is probably I don't know, I was actually kind of surprised by the price, because this type of quality you normally see in flagship killers or in proper flagships. So I'm pretty impressed by Vivo on this. If we talk about performance, then this comes with Snapdragon's 7 Gen 3 processor. That's I believe it's a new processor. It's also based on a 4nm platform, but it gave us similar numbers to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 at around 812,000 points. If I'm not wrong, I think this is very close to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, or the 8 Gen 2. I think 8 Gen 2 chip touched 1 million and 1.3 million, but I think this is much more closer to the 8 Gen 1 chip. But nevertheless, it is an efficient chip. It is based on 4nm, so performance-wise, this is also pretty good. You're not going to face any sort of problems. You can play games like PUBG at high settings without any issues whatsoever. And then you also have the option of 12 gigs of RAM, which is pretty good. Now, if you talk about the camera system, I was actually pretty impressed by it. Just looking at the phone from the back, it doesn't strike you as a camera-centered phone, but they kind of made it to sort of look like it's a camera-centered phone. I can say that the Vivo V30 Pro is a camera-centered phone because it's actually calibrated by Zeiss optics, so you get a little bit of an edge there. You have a dual 50-megapixel setup over here. We have an f1.9 wide lens as the main lens, and then you have an f2.0 ultra wide, which also has autofocus, and it has 119 degrees field of view. Now, the unique thing about the camera is actually the ring or the aura light. So let me go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. So if I go ahead and turn it on, then the complete lighting or the complete ring actually lights up, which provides you sort of like a ring light effect. Not only is this impressive, but the most impressive part is actually this. So you can go ahead and actually change the hue of the light, which means that depending on what tone you want, so if you want to go for a warmer tone, you can actually change it, and it goes down to almost an orange type color. But again, depending on what type of lighting you want, you can actually change it. And then you have the options of turning it off, or with the flash on, or automatically having it on a flash auto mode. But if you want to manually change it, then you have to select the aura light always on, and then you have to change it with your slider over here. And I think that's pretty impressive. This is not something that I've seen with previous phones. I wish that a lot of other companies would at least give you the option to change the hue of the light. If we look at the photos, I'm going to put some samples over here, starting with the portrait photography. I was very impressed by it, and just looking at the photo, you can see that there's really a lot of detail, and even if we zoom in, there's a lot of detail even still, so there's no grain. I'm also taking some other pictures here, which I'm comparing with another phone, and the other phone that I'm comparing this to is actually the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So you can just side by side, you can tell that the quality is pretty good. Same thing when it comes to the selfie camera. Selfie camera on portrait photography, it gives you a pretty good bokeh on the background, which you can adjust. And just general pictures are also pretty good. You do have the option of that beautify thing, which I'm not a fan of. So if you can go to natural and classic, and what it does is actually it tones down your face a little bit. So it changes the way that your face is looking, so it looks a little bit slimmer, which I'm not a fan of. I always put it at off, so it gives you that natural look. So camera systems are no joke here, and if you want to buy this phone, this is simply because of the cameras. You actually can. Both the front and the back. The front is a 50 megapixel camera system as well, so I should mention that. And both the front and the back will shoot in 4K resolution at 60 and 30 FPS, and then you obviously have 1080p and 720p as well. Last but not least, when it comes to the battery, this has a standard 5000 milliampere battery, which actually impressed us because it gave us better performance and a better overall average active consumption of around 16 hours. Normally, we've seen phones give us on a 5000 milliampere battery give us around 13 to 14 hours. This gave us around 15 and a half to 16 if you want to push it. And then you also have an 80 watt charger that comes out of the box, and 0 to 100% is going to take around 48 minutes, which is decent enough. And you also have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. Now finally, coming down to the pricing, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't exactly know what the price is because this phone is not really officially launched right now. We are still waiting on a price by Vivo, but what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing online, the price for this phone is going to be somewhere between the 1700 dirham to 2000 dirham mark. So just in between that, which is not a bad deal in my opinion. Even if this costs 2000 dirhams, it's not a bad option to buy because this gives you proper flagship vibes, even though it's not. But the camera system, even the sound system, which in some areas, depending on where you buy this, is actually calibrated by Snapdragon. But you are getting the best of the best display. You're getting pretty good cameras. You're getting a very good overall phone with the good performance, pretty decent performance, and a good battery life. And at $2,000, I think that is worth looking at. So yeah, guys, this is the Vivo V30. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.